This is the Dery Brothers Tribecast, a podcast for diehard Cleveland Indians fans. Presented to you by WaitingForNextYear.com. Now, here are the hosts, Matt and Todd Dery.
And welcome in, everybody. On a Monday, it is another edition of the Dery Brothers Tribecast. Matt and Todd with you talking Cleveland Indians baseball after another interesting week, to say the least. Taking 2 out of 3 from the Seattle Mariners, actually finishing the season series with Seattle at 5-1. Yesterday's debacle, not to not be expected after Cody Anderson got his opportunity to start. We'll get into that and talk about the injury situation with the team, our week in review, the Kluber situation, roster moves aplenty this past weekend. What's the lineup looking like, and what's Tito thinking with some of his decisions? And yes, we got to get into James Karinchak. Oh, baby. James K is lighting it up down in the minor leagues. Oh, and a Danny Salazar update. The update is the same old with him. Todd is in Cleveland. I am in Detroit. We are brought to you by Groove Ride. Todd will tell you about them coming up in a little bit. TD, what's good, man? That was a rough one for you yesterday, huh?
How about the last 2 Indians games I've gone to? They were down 9-0 in the 5th and 10-0 in the 5th.
Ooh, not good.
I went the last 2 Sundays. That was not good. But I'll tell you one thing.
These Sundays are rough.
I was there yesterday. It was a beautiful day, and we haven't seen the sun here in about 2 months at least. So when we were down 10-0 in the 3rd inning or whatever it was, Jay Bruce hit that first inning grand slam off that straight meat from Cody Anderson. It was such a nice day. I wasn't even upset. We already had won the series, and I was just outside enjoying the nice weather. That's all.
It's so funny because there's some people that say, okay, I got like a 5-game package or a 10-game package, or the guy that lives up in Youngstown, or somebody like me that maybe could say, I'm going to drive in for a nice Sunday game and has to sit through that. You never know. There's 162 of them. There's going to be some absolute meatball type games and flop games that just that you try to erase as quickly as possible. And the Indians will get that chance with the White Sox coming in. A banged-up Chicago team. Carlos Rodon, who kills the Indians, is injured right now, so the Tribe won't see him. They'll likely face 3 starters out of 4 that are right-handers, which is good. And look, Todd, I mean, this weekend...
Always a good thing facing right-handed batters with this lineup.
Oh,
pitchers with this lineup, I mean.
For sure. And, tonight, Trevor Bauer, they got to get a good start from him, certainly. As he'll toe the slab for the Tribe, because he's kind of the in-between guy now between Cody Anderson, who has to pitch because Corey Kluber's hurt, and Jeffrey Rodriguez, who, of course, is in the rotation because Clevenger's out. So they've kind of moved things around to get Bauer in between those 2 guys, and he'll face Ivan Nova, whose ERA is over 8. But, Todd, this weekend was highlighted again by Carlos Santana. Saturday's huge 2-run home run in the bottom of the 8th. Off a right-handed reliever, which I don't quite understand what Scott Service of the Mariners was doing, not turning Carlos back around to the right side with lefty relievers both in the game and available. But he's carried this team, and he's a huge reason why this team, by the way, has the 5th best record in the American League.
Carlos Santana has saved this team. I don't think it can be overstated just how great he's been and how much of a savior he's been. If you compare his numbers to everybody else's on the team, so he's leads the team in RBIs, obviously, with 19. He's tied for the lead with homers with 5. His OPS is 906. The second best OPS on the team is Frankie Lindor at 672, which isn't good, by the way, or 762. I'm sorry. You know who's 3rd and 4th in OPS currently on the Indians?
Brad Miller, I believe.
Brad Miller and Roberto Perez, and 5th is Jordan Luplow. So
my God.
The fact that basically you have one guy who's essentially coming up with every big hit, and you're still right there, one of the better teams in the American League record-wise, is truly astounding. But every time, Carl, he's hitting, I believe going into yesterday, in fact, I know this is, he was hitting 500 with runners in scoring position. 500. That's incredible. He can be, this is the best he's looked, and he can be counted on every single day. But where would they be without him? Because as we've discussed ad nauseum, and everybody has discussed ad nauseum, they're getting absolutely nothing from Jose Ramirez. They're getting very little from anybody else. Carlos Gonzalez. Jason Kipnis is ice cold. He is now 2 for his last 33, I believe the number was. And what was it, 3 for 39?
Three for his last 37.
Yes, 3 for his last 37. So that first week when we were all excited, that seems to be the exception rather than the rule. And Leonis Martin can't. He's ice cold. Jake Bowers has been up and down. Luplow seems to be a guy who can do it against left-handed pitching, but again, Carlos Santana is single-handedly carrying this team.
I love him, and here's why I love him. He was excited to come back. He never wanted to leave, and I understand he had to go for the money, and Philly has more money than we do. The fact that he kept his house, the fact his family loves it here, you could tell he's playing with a certain type of emotion and swagger. He's been clutch. And for a guy that was immature years ago and kind of shaky in the clubhouse for some guys and a little bit selfish at times, to now be the leader of this team, to hear Lindor the other night say after the game, we're learning from him. Frankie, who's been in the league now a while, saying he's learning from Carlos. That's the kind of gritty, grimy guy in the middle of the order that you want. That's going to take a lot of pitches. That's going to draw some walks. That the other day it looked like after Carrasco had given up his 4th solo home run, that this team was dead in the water. But, for some odd reason, they're 18-14. They're the 5th best record in the American League. They're only 2 games out of first. They've had all this crap happen to them. They've had Kluber basically be ineffective and now hurt. Like you said, Jose Ramirez finally now at 200 after yesterday's, 2 for 3 day. And you can see he's getting better in the box. I can see it. So that's good. But still, not producing a lot of runs. This team's 26th or 27th in runs scored still. I got to double check that. But to sit where they're sitting right now, I'm with you. Santana should be the leadoff guy for this podcast today because he's been awesome.
Yep. Also 30th in weighted runs created plus, by the way. You got to throw
WRC. There you go.
That's right. But I'll tell you.
What are you, Jeff guy. Ellis?
Yeah. Come on now. I'll tell you another guy who has gone about his business completely quietly and has not gotten nearly enough love, and who's another, I would say, basically the pitching equivalent to Carlos Santana. That's Brad Hand. Brad Hand, when the Indians traded for him last year, I think because they still had Cody Allen and they still had Andrew Miller, and everybody still at points last year was trying to say to themselves, okay, they're going to be okay. But credit to Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff, and as much crap as we have given them for as bad as they've been this past offseason, getting Brad Hand and Adam Simber to basically become the 2 key cogs in the bullpen last year and have them under club control for years to come has been huge. Where would this bullpen be, without a proven guy in that to get those last 3 outs? Hand's been basically untouchable. 10 saves. He's been absolutely nails coming in, and they've pitched him basically in every single close game. He's come in and been effective.
Yeah, we're not blowing a lot of people out either. So
no, we're not. I mean, we lose 10-0, but I haven't looked, and I'd like to look. I would gather so Hand has 10 saves, right? Out of our 18 wins, he has 10 saves.
Correct.
So that's at least more than half that we won by 3 runs or less. And I got to believe, it's a lot less than that. But I got to give Brad Hand a ton of credit. He's been absolutely nails, and he's under club control until 2021, and even should the Indians fall out of it in the next couple of years and start that rebuild, and Hand continues down this trajectory, he'll be a great trade piece because he's got a nice contract, and that's as we know in our market, that is kind of important.
Yeah, and he's been very good, and the bullpen overall second in the American League in ERA. And I know they took some lumps on Sunday because, quite honestly, Tito was just trotting out there the guys that don't belong, and I'll stay with that. I'm not going to go and say we need to de-Tyler the roster again, like we said earlier this year. Naquin's been decent and provided some fireworks Friday night with the walk-off hit. Tyler Olson's no good. Dan Otero's no good. John Edwards is no good. So
it's funny, by the way, about Dan Otero. Local radio hosts who shall remain nameless, who clearly are not Tribe First guys. One I heard describe him the other day as having a career year and how great he's been, and he's been a savior as a shutdown guy in the back end of the bullpen. And I was like, are we watching the same team here? Yeah, just because his ERA is, in the twos doesn't mean he's great. Otero's not exactly coming in with, a one-run lead. I mean, if you've noticed, Tito's using him in the spots where he should be used. He's not pitching in the eighth inning with a one-run lead in front of Hand. So you want to say he's doing a nice job this year as a middle guy? Sure, I'll give you that. But I'm not here telling you that Dan Otero is some savior.
Yeah, and every year when he's had a decent regular season, he's been left off the playoff roster. I think that the Indians eventually, once they get healthy in their rotation, figure out what they have, see if this kid down in Columbus, Karinchak, who's just striking out everybody, 2 appearances, he's faced 6 batters and he struck them all out. And he's throwing high 90s. The Indians need a hard thrower in that bullpen, right?
In AAA. They just brought him up.
Right.
For those who don't know, Karinchak is a guy who's always thrown hard and had some command issues, worked hard in the offseason, and started in Akron. He was in Akron last year, started in Akron this year, 14 Ks in 20 innings, and nobody's touched him. So they brought him up to AAA this weekend, and as Matt said, 2 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts. Not bad.
No, and he'll be here eventually, and I think there's others that could be here, and that kind of leads to our first topic here. So we're doing the week in review. Everybody knows the split in Miami, which sucked, but whatever. And then the taking 2 out of 3 from Seattle with the White Sox for 4, the A's next weekend, Bauer and Nova.
The Actors Oakland A's, you mean?
Hey, yeah, Ack, absolutely. I miss Eric the Actor, by the way. How many points did the A's make? It's a little Howard Stern reference for all you guys out there. But 4 against Chicago, 3 against the A's. And it starts with, obviously, Cody Anderson. Some questions about, all right, he was so bad yesterday and couldn't even get out of the first inning. But it sounds like Tito's going to give him every opportunity to pitch Friday in Oakland and give him that opportunity. But the question's going to be, if he flops against a bad A's team in a big ballpark Friday, then what's the next option? But, Kluber breaking his, getting hit by the liner and breaking his forearm, it's debatable, Todd, because he hasn't been good, but yet, wouldn't you rather still be trotting out Corey Kluber than Cody Anderson?
Okay, I'm going to say something that's going to be extremely unpopular, but here's the truth. And I said this last week on the topic, and you told me I was crazy. He was the 5th best starter on the team. He was. The way he was pitching compared to the other guys in the rotation, Kluber was the 5th best starter they had. That said, I'd much rather have Corey Kluber than Cody Anderson. That's not even close. But while I think it obviously is a big hit and we have to, patch it up, another injury that nobody talks about that is extremely important is the fact that Adam Plutko, who essentially was the 6th starter, has yet to pitch in Columbus yet. And he's just now getting back to Columbus where he's going to start and get back into the rotation, but he still has to build his way up. He was throwing a little bit in Arizona to get his way back up with a forearm strain, but not having Plutko to immediately plug back in and knowing a guy you can count on has forced the Indians' hand, and they had to go to Cody Anderson, who's not stretched out, and turn these things into bullpen games. So when I was there yesterday, not only could Cody Anderson not throw strikes, but when he did throw strikes, it was 94, 95 straight. And Jay Bruce, our old friend, deposited a grand slam, which was no doubt off the bat off of him in the first inning. So you're forced to pitch him because the options after him were basically putting Asher, Wojciechowski, or Michael, don't call me Danny Peoples, into the rotation.
What about Zach Plesac? What about Zach Plesac? Let's dip down into the Akron train. Let's go.
They're not. I don't think they're ready for that. But the truth is, they didn't have the option because Plutko's hurt. Once he comes back, I think what they're going to do basically is, now that Plutko's back in AAA, I bet they'll give him a couple of starts, and the Cody thing's going to have to ride out until Plutko's ready. They really just don't have any other option because Wojciechowski and Peoples are not on the 40-man. And we can all stop hey, they should sign Dallas Keuchel. That was the next day's topic was, why don't the Indians pony up for Dallas Keuchel? If they weren't going to do it then, Scott Boras' client who turned down 5 years and $90 million, what makes you think the Indians of all teams are going to give him any sort of a contract? That's just pie in the sky pipe dream kind of stuff.
That, and let's say you sign Dallas Keuchel and then Kluber and Clevenger come back. Where is he going to pitch? They're not doing that.
Yeah, if you're going to sign somebody, they would have signed a bat.
Right.
That's what they needed help. And we can get into another free agent bat who's now out there who the Indians could look at in a minute. But it's going to be interesting to see how this works with Cody Anderson and the gigantic bullpen that they're currently carrying. Because, Kevin Plawecki pitched again yesterday, which is a disgrace. And
he's not bad.
He's not. 2 scoreless innings of work so far.
That 77-mile-per-hour slider is not that bad. Matt and Todd Dery, it is the Dery Brothers Tribecast, brought to you by WaitingForNextYear.com and our friends at Groove Ride. Before we get into some of this roster configuration stuff and the possibility, as Todd said, of Matt Kemp coming to Cleveland, Todd is going to tell you about Groove Ride, where he works out every day and feels so good when he leaves. Right, Todd?
Kind of like what Mace said. Feels so good. No, yesterday.
Mace? That's a great call.
Oh, yeah. Come on. Feels so good by Mace. That song was a jam back in the 90s.
Not bad.
That was good. Yesterday, I went to Groove Ride in Woodmere, and I took I spin on Sundays to catch my legs, and I took a class with the great Jamie Glass, who will put anybody into a coffin when they're done. I very rarely leave a class gasping for air, feel like I'm dying, which I enjoy, by the way. But oh my goodness, she was an absolute killer.
Tell us about dying.
No, but Jamie's great. She teaches 2 or 3 times a week there at Woodmere Spin. I like to do the boot camps with Ashley and Beth Ann, and took a great boot camp this morning with Anna, who's a great instructor as well. Everybody is just there for one reason, and it's a real positive environment, and I love it. And Groove Ride has 3 locations. As you know, if you live downtown, check them out across the street from Perk Park there in Reserve Square. And then you got the newest location, the Shops at Van Aken. This weekend, there's a big grand opening party. My man who owns Groove Ride, Zosimo, will be DJing the big party this weekend. So check them out Friday night. Van Aken, the Shops at Van Aken.
Zosimo on the 1s and 2s? This ought to get crazy.
Zosimo Maximo, baby, and that's his real name. And and then, of course, you got the 3rd location, my home, Woodmere on Chagrin Boulevard. Check them out, grooveride.com. That's grooveride with a Y.com, and tell them I sent you.
All right, it is the Dery Brothers Tribecast. Thanks to our friends at Groove Ride. And, of course, WaitingForNextYear.com. Tribe and White Sox for the start of 4. We're doing the pod here on this Monday. By the way, how many games are they going to get in? We may not even be talking about Cody Anderson pitching on Friday because one of these games this week could get rained out. What's the forecast there, Patty?
I was just going to say, well, glad you asked. Thanks, Mom.
Our mom's in the weather, big time.
God bless our mother. Nobody loves the weather quite like she does. Although I've had this conversation with many of my friends, and it seems like everyone in their generation really is into the weather. But I digress. Actually, tonight is going to be beautiful. I'll be down there with your nephew, checking him out at 6:10. I know many people don't like the 6:10 start times, but I happen to love them on school nights. We're home by 9:30 if we stay for the entire game, which is golden. The weather this week: 50% chance of rain Tuesday, 50% chance of rain Wednesday, 70% chance of rain Thursday. So it's going to be a little dicey this week. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw a game be rained out. And to be honest, with the Cody Anderson situation, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they had a rain out, because then you could skip them. Plus, you got a day off next Wednesday. After they go to Chicago for 2 Monday and Tuesday. So a rain out wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. We could do a little Bull Durham action, with the I can get us a rain out. Wouldn't be so terrible.
No, not at all. And, that kind of, goes with this week to see, how they can do. Again, the White Sox, just a quick preview as I was prepping yesterday. Nova, Giolito, Lopez, and then Manny Banuelos on Thursday.
Oh, former Yankee great Manny Banuelos. Wasn't he supposed to be the greatest thing of all time?
Ever.
Prospect?
Oh, yeah, ever. It was Banuelos, and who was the other one? There were 2 of them. There was
Betances.
I think it was Betances and Banuelos back then. We're both starters at the time, and Betances
Correct.
obviously has become an all-star reliever. But Banuelos is a lefty, so he would pitch Thursday. But no Rodon, which is a huge break. He's been hurt. White Sox have had like back-to-back basically bullpen games because they had Dylan Covey pitch on Saturday, and then I think it was Covey yesterday. Covey, I think, pitched. Maybe it was yesterday, and Banuelos the other day, and he gave up 9 runs in like the third inning. So they've had back-to-back bullpen games. So their pen's pretty stretched right now, including Evan Marshall's in their pen, Todd.
Oh, you know what's funny? In my time hop today came up, and it was discussing how I was tweeting a year ago today about how Tito's hand was dealt so badly that he was going 8th inning straight from the minors, Alexi Ogando in New York, followed by the infamous debacle against the Astros last year when he brought in the 8th inning, brought in Evan Marshall with the bases loaded for his first appearance. The old Tito, hey, front office, these are the arms I gave you? Well, here's what I'm going to do with them. Pitch them in the 8th. That
was a train wreck, complete train wreck. White Sox used, by the way, 5 relievers yesterday, and one of them was not Evan Marshall, so you'll probably see him tonight unless Nova pitches well, but his ERA is over 8. But
he shut the Indians down the first time they faced him earlier in the year.
It was also 10 degrees outside. But, John Edwards is up right now. What do we have, 9 relievers on the roster?
It's a 9-man pen, but I think I got to look. I'm looking right now. Great radio, live action. Someone's got to go down for Cousin Jeffrey from the Parks Department tomorrow. So that's probably going to be Edwards, I would believe.
Max Moroff DFA'd the other day. So Mike Freeman is your utility guy beating out Max Moroff. You were there for you and Jeremy were executive producer. Both there for the Max Moroff game.
Yes, we will always have the Max Moroff game. Mike Freeman, it's pretty incredible. He's 4 months younger than Jason Kipnis, and he's finally getting his first shot at a real utility role. Another left-handed bat, nothing special about him. This Moroff, Freeman, Brad Miller, Stamets, they can't come up with somebody better than these guys to be the utility man. I remember when we used to hate on Gonzo. I mean, I like Gonzo, but they would kill to have Eric Gonzalez right now. That's the irony of the whole situation.
And this
exactly what they need.
This organization going back to '95 with Espy and Enrique Wilson. Right. We've had some
utility man we ever had.
We've had some very good utility guys going back to when we were kids, and your boy Alan Bannister was getting some.
Number 7, my boy,
was getting some run. But regardless of that, it begs a question about the roster configuration of would the Indians look at picking up a right-handed power bat in Matt Kemp, who the Reds just basically discarded this week. Very, very interesting to see him just get released. I had him on the old fantasy team last year, and he started off hot, and I think you told me he finished with 23 home runs and something in a decent season last year, but the Reds have an overabundance of outfielders. Team D's own Scott Schebler just got sent down. So, yeah, but they've got so many guys in that outfield that Kemp was expendable, and it begged the question, would the Indians go after him? And I would have to say no. If you're going to be going after any right-handed bat, just bring Mercado up and call it a day. I would
love to. I agree with you, and I would love to see Mercado. Number one fan and also show contributor Brian Aggs Silver. Very pro Matt Kemp to the Indians. The way I look at it with Matt Kemp, okay, so by the way, last year he played 146 games for the Dodgers, 290 batting average, 818 OPS, had 21 homers, 85 RBIs. That's pretty. Made an all-star team at age 33. Now, at age 30, he's a butcher in the outfield at this point in his career. He was once a good outfielder. He's not anymore. But if you're not going to have Mercado up, and you need it basically comes down to this. Would you rather have Jordan Luplow or Matt Kemp? And Matt Kemp, to me, I look at him as the right-handed hitting version of Cargo. I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him if it's going to cost you nothing. Why not? He could catch lightning in a bottle, sure.
And the Reds are paying the freight for his big contract, so it's not like
he's going to clear waivers because no one's picking him.
Second half of the year last year, his bat slowed way down. And look, if he could play, wouldn't Cincinnati have kept him? I mean, how many more discarded guys are we going to be picking up here, including Hanley Ramirez, who, by the way, nobody's picked up?
Well, yeah, saw that one coming. To answer your first question, if he was that good, wouldn't they play him? They've decided to go with the kids. Their number one prospect, Nick Senzel, is now up. They converted him into an outfielder. That was the guy, by the way, that lots of times was mentioned this summer as being the guy that the Indians wanted for Corey Kluber, which is a shame because would love me some Senzel on this team right now. That's neither here nor there. But they decided to go with the youth movement, which is fine, and not to mention Derek Dietrich, another guy who the Indians had every chance to signed for a minor league contract with the Reds, hit 2 more homers this weekend, absolutely destroying the balls deep. He could have 100% been the utility guy and played all over the diamond. Why the Indians didn't sign a guy from Cleveland who would have loved to have been here to a minor league contract and let him go to the Reds is beyond me. With that said,
he's killing the ball. Now, I know it's Cincinnati in that ballpark, but he's hit some monster home runs.
Yeah, he would have been great. I wouldn't mind giving Matt Kemp a shot. I don't think he's any superstar anymore by any means, but it's not like he's that far off from his last great season. Like Hanley was far.
How many more deadbeat veterans is this club going to bring in? I'm sorry.
To do.
I want him to bring Mercado up.
But you and I both know that they're not going to do that unless there's an injury to Leonis and they bring him up to play center. And even if that happens, I don't know that they don't go back. I mean, I know Leonis now, who's ice cold and should be a platoon player, which is another conversation. But if Leonis gets hurt, I think they're just going to bring Greg Allen back up and play him in center field every day.
Hey, he's got a 5-game hitting streak at Columbus. Don't think I didn't see that.
Because he's above AAA at this point.
Of course.
He either should play every day in the majors or he's 4A. It's pretty simple.
And it's a tough call, Todd, because you look up and you say, okay, if we sign Matt Kemp, where's he going to play? And you go, well, I mean, they're taking a long look at Tyler Naquin, and I heard Tito on the pregame show Friday with Hammy. Tito loves the guy and thinks if he's healthy, he's really going to help us. It was actually Saturday. It was after the walk-off on Friday in the afternoon. And so they're going to play Naquin. They want to play Bowers. They want to see what they have in Jake Bowers, and some of it is because Yandy Diaz is performing in Tampa, so they want Bowers to perform. And he had the RBI single the other day, but some of his at-bats are questionable. All these guys seem to be the same at the moment. So if they bring in... Go ahead.
I'll tell you where he can play. I will tell you where he can play. Have you seen this team? Yes, you have. I mean, this is a rhetorical question I know the answer to. You've seen this team against left-handed pitching.
Horrible.
They can't hit. You're carrying 9 relief pitchers, and then the other night, first of all, Scott Service, Mariners manager, this weekend literally handed the Indians 2 games. Friday night, he had a lefty warming when they sent up Naquin to pinch hit in the 9th, and he did not use him. Everybody knows that Naquin loves the low stuff, and that pitch from Schwag Anthony Swarzak was a low pitch that Naquin deposited into right field for the RBI walk-off single. So he didn't use it there. Next day, he's got a lefty on the mound, Elias, who was doing just fine. He brings in a righty to move Carlos to his better side, who then hits a 2-run homer. Okay, so that's pretty genius. But with all that said, the Indians can't hit left-handed pitching. You need more right-handed bats because in that game Friday night, had Elias come into the game, there was no counter move. Naquin would have had to have faced the lefty. The only move he could have made was to pinch hit Roberto. If you had Matt Kemp on the roster rather than, at the time Freeman and Moroff, you could have sent Matt Kemp up in that situation right there to counter that move. So that's where you can play Matt Kemp. He can be a right-handed platoon guy and face left-handed pitching because Lord knows the Indians need help against lefties.
Does he want to be a platoon guy? And look, sometimes you say to yourself, all right, Matt Kemp is now being moved to like his 5th team in 2 years. I mean, he was at the Padres, the Dodgers, the Reds. Now he's Braves. I mean, he's made the rounds. So there's a reason for that. I don't know what kind of guy he is. I found it very interesting in reading the quote from Reds people yesterday. Oh, we wanted to go in a different direction and everything else. Well, does that mean that where's the I'm going to get you this quote right here. Hold on. Reds president Dick Williams, with our support, David Bell's working hard to create a new environment in the clubhouse and on the field. After giving it time to develop, we didn't see Matt fitting in. What does that mean? New environment. Does that mean the guy's an asshole? I mean, what does that mean?
Well, number one, I'm sure he's a diva. Number two, they're a rebuilding team that's playing young kids. Number 3, I have no problem giving him a shot. If he sucks, then you cut him, just like Hanley. It's not like they have an all-star at every position, and they don't have room against left-handed pitchers, for example, to bring in a veteran guy who might still have it. I mean, it's a small sample size. The guy only had 62 plate appearances. I mean, it's not like they gave him 3 months and he was batting 180 and he was playing every day and they cut him. I'm sure they didn't like it. He probably didn't like being in a clubhouse that the team was bad. He was used to he just had come from the Dodgers, who were in the World Series, and he was thrilled to be back in Los Angeles, where he played his first 9 seasons in the majors. I'm sure Cincinnati was not a good spot for him, but here the team is winning. They're a playoff team. I think there's an environment that would work for Matt Kemp.
What's his status? Because he broke his rib and was put on the injured list a couple of weeks ago. So
he's on the DL, and they'll have to, obviously get him healthy, and they're not going to do anything until he gets healthy, most likely. And again, he was DFA'd, so he's got 10 days to clear waivers, so nothing's going to happen for 10 days because nobody's picking up Matt Kemp at $21 million, which is what he's the last year of his contract. $21.7 million he's making this year.
That's right. He signed an 8-year, I believe it was 8 at 160. That's pretty. That's pretty crazy. So, all right. I mean, look, I'll warm up to it a little bit. To me, if you're going to be throwing another veteran right-handed bat up against the wall and hope it sticks, to me, you bring up Mercado, you let him play every day, you find a way to get Bowers in there at DH at times and at left field at times. Same goes with Naquin and right. Martin, when there's days that there's a lefty on the mound, doesn't play, so Mercado would be in center or Luplo, whatever. And I know Tito loves this mix and match game. He loves it, absolutely loves it. But when, like you said, when there's days and the lefty's on the mound and Luplo's hitting 5th and Martin's striking out every time in that 2-hole, that's where the Jose Ramirez's and the Lindors and the Santanas have to carry us. That's just the way it is.
Yep, I agree. And
all right.
That's the problem because they haven't been, so other than Carlos.
All right. Are we missing anything else? Oh, the Danny Salazar news. So he has a great bullpen session, right? And then the next day wakes up and says the arm doesn't feel right, and he goes and sees Dr. Keith Meister. I mean, this is becoming one of the more classic old bits of all time in Cleveland sports with Salazar. You hope to catch lightning in a bottle. You hope it. This is such a mental thing. It's not even funny. I mean, I feel sorry for him because I think the Indians think he's fine. I do. I don't know this for a fact. I think the Indians think his health is fine. It is all upstairs in his head, and he may never pitch again.
I have long agreed with you on this. I think it's all in his head. Here's what's crazy. It was 2013 that he came up as a rookie and pitched that wild card game and was so good down the stretch. 2013. That's a long time ago at this point. What was the year he made an all-star team? I want to say it was the first half of the 2016 season?
Yeah.
When they went to the World Series, right?
Correct.
Okay, so he made the all-star team after that great first half in 2016, and he has literally fallen off the table and been hurt ever since. I had high hopes for Danny. I had been trying to will him into becoming the guy who was going to save the bullpen in the second half of the season, and I think the Indians picking up that $4.5 million option on him was – I think they had the exact same idea. But – I think you're 100% right. I think it's all mental. And I don't think you'll ever see him again because, I mean, how many more chances the Indians going to give him? He can barely get out of Arizona. I think Zach Meisel called him as a part of Arizona, kind of like the cactuses are, or cacti, however you want to call them. But I do feel sorry for him as well. But to me, this is Grady Sizemore 2012 when the Indians decided, hey, he's only played in 100 games the last 2 seasons, and his body's totally broken down. But he was great once. Let's give him $5 million, and he'll never play for us again.
What a mistake!
I think this is Grady Sizemore 2012 all over.
That was more. That was more.
In November when they picked him.
I remember you did. You did, and I think that was to sell tickets. This isn't to sell tickets. I think that they figured.
Salazar isn't selling any tickets.
Right. Right. No, I'm saying that was the Sizemore was. Sizemore move was. So I think they're hopeful that maybe he can come back, hit mid in the high 90s, and put him in the bullpen. And this is sad because I think the Indians are like, dude, you're fine. And he just, anytime he throws and gets done, he feels something's wrong, and you can't chance something like that. All right, so you're going tonight. When else are you going this week?
I'm only going tonight. Work has me away from going to the games the rest of the week, but next weekend, the weekend of the 16th, the Tribe's home for a big. Let's see, 4 and 3 is 10, and 11 game homestand. I'll probably be at like 6 of those.
Nice.
so I'll be ready for action.
All right. Like I said, I think we're getting close. 18 and 14. We're getting close to the infamous Sparky Anderson 40 game number where you can really judge a team at the 40 game mark. And then at 18 and 14, like we talked about, for all the bitching and complaining that we can do, and people upset with Tito and the fan base is the usual. This team is above water, and I think this will be a big week. They should take care of the White Sox and then go to Oakland, where we never play well. But let's see how that goes and how Cody Anderson could do Friday, if he even pitches. But as always, brother, love doing this.
It's my pleasure. I love doing it as well. It's crazy. To close up, the stat that I saw of the Indians, this is their best. It was when they were 18 and 13 after they won Saturday. The best 31 game start in the Tito era, right? And as much as we bitch and complain, I mean the fact that this is their best 31 game start is pretty amazing when you consider they're not hitting. You know what their run differential is, by the way?
I think we're a minus, aren't we? Aren't we a minus?
-6. And they're 18 and 14. It's basically you take out the blowouts the last 2 Sundays, and that's where the difference comes in. But even so, they were, to be a -6 run differential and be 18 and 14, which is the 5th best record in the American League.
Correct.
4th best record in the American League.
Fifth.
Yeah, I mean that's 2 games out of first is pretty good. But as you and I have talked about, and I said it from day one, it's going to be a full season pennant race against the Twins. So they're not going anywhere. They're a very good ball club, and they're starting to get some really good starting pitching from Barrios and Odorizzi, and that team's strong. And they got ex-Indian Derek Falvey running the show. So this is going to be a fun stretch drive, or if you call it fun. But all these excruciating games are going to matter. So every single one of these games counts, whether it's in May or in September. So I want to keep that in the front of everyone's minds. All these games count.
Yep. All right, brother. Thank you. There it is. Matt and Todd Dery. Another edition of the Dery Brothers Tribecast, brought to you by Groove Ride and brought to you by our friends at waitingfornextyear.com. We'll talk to you again next week.